Okay, so I've been in the loft again and bought a few things out to go with my Compaq Armada e500, and I've got a few games to test, a few emulators to work with, and a few little tips. So I managed to find a load of floppy disks of various things, which has helped out because a few things I've needed to put on floppy. So that's one thing. I've found a few of my old PlayStation games and I managed to get a working emulator. There's a demo disc of Parappa the Rapper there, which from back in the day. Mouse, because the mouse pad is not as it's all right, but it's nicer with a mouse. So I've got that. One of my real finds was this, which is a original PlayStation controller. Well, this is the DualShock controller, so that I guess the second generation. But it works with USB. And works with Windows 95 and 98. And luckily, I had a driver's disc. It wasn't with it, but I found it in amongst the stuff, and it worked fine. So I'm really pleased about that. So I've also got some RAM discs, but my drive only supports FireWire, the DVD RAM disc I've got. So I'm going to have to do something about that if there's content on there, but I don't know how much content I need on there. There's not much exclusive. So I've stopped using the Cytec controller. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that with emulators and games, when you're redefining the controls, it's a bit problematic because the thrust control in the middle tends to think it's always on. So as you're trying to redefine controls, it comes up for, what control do you want to use for up, and the thrust control kicks in, and so it picks it for everything. So that's where the PlayStation joypad, which I like anyway, very controllable, and we were using it yesterday for track and field and hypersports, and the buttons really work very well for that. We got some pretty decent scores, my son and I, and I'll be posting a video, a bit of a competition, dad versus son, where we play some old retro games together and see who does better. Is it going to be experience or youth? There's a lot of years in between us, or about 30 odd years. Anyway, I've also got, there's a hard drive in here, this rather nice aluminium LANDisc hard drive. I'm not going to do that in this video, but I've also got an external drive, a Max-Tor drive, which I haven't used for years, and I've also got 4 hard drives. So this is, I don't know what I've got. Right, so it says it's faulty, but you never know. As an external drive, I might be able to get it to work. Can't see what sort of space this has got in it. 10 gig. So that's a 10 gig. This one, Hitachi one, is 164 gig. Won't boot an OS. 2 end pins are bent. That might be fixable. It's whether or not, because some of these are 1 gig. So this 1 gig drive would have been in my original Pentium 75 computer. Now that could be a good sign, because there might be some stuff on there which I've installed and can put on the new on the new old computer. And then 120 gig Max-Tor. So I've got loads of drives with content on to try. I've got spindles and spindles of discs. I must have hundreds of discs. I used to really just record and back up things all the time, because once CDRs and DVDRs got cheap, that's what I used to do. Right, let's boot it up and show you what I've changed. And so the PlayStation, basically we've got like a USB-A connector, I think it is. Pop that in there. I don't need to uncurl this. And also, I've got 2 operating systems on here now. So I've got XP and Windows 98. So what I've done in the last video, so the laptop came with XP. I decided I wanted 98 on there for dual booting. And so I installed 98. I used Partition Magic to hide a partition and split it into 2 round about 10 gig drives. But when I installed 98, it just completely overwrote everything and reformatted, so I made a bit of an error there. But luckily, installing XP over 98, as in as a dual boot system, is really easy, and it recognised the drives, let me pick the drive, installed, didn't need any device manager meddling with. It picked everything, the graphics card, the sound card, everything. There's no exclamation marks in there at all, apart from the joypad adapter with this PlayStation controller, and that's only because I haven't put the drivers in there. But I'm not sure if the drivers work with XP on that. I'm pretty sure it says Windows NT and 98, so it only says 98 and NT, so it might not work with XP, but you know, some things do work in that front. So I haven't got any light on the controller yet. Oh yes, I have. Right, so the controller's up and running. Now, what have I been meddling with? So my favourite one, I plugged in a mouse, so I might as well use the mouse. So under working emulators, these are things that I've got to work. Now these are all things that I had 20 years ago or so, so they're just appropriate for this computer because I was using it on an older device, and this is a similar sort of era, maybe a little bit later than I was using, but lots of the things still work. So the Spectrum emulator is excellent. Now all you do is drag into the executable file. So if I pick something like Manic Miner, can't go wrong with Manic Miner. Now I was amazed that the controller worked straight off the bat, and it was doing it through the Windows install. So I'd never played Manic Miner with a controller before, but the speed seems perfect, and it's really nice to be able to play it with a joypad. So let's see if I can do the first level. First level was the easiest one. See, I remember these things. I mean, obviously I used to do it a lot back in the day. Still pretty... Oh no. Right, well let's try something else anyway. So that's how quick it goes in and out of the Spectrum games. So if I drag Paperboy in, so it's Kempson joypad with this setting. So if I select Kempson, 0 to start game. I used to play this in the arcade in Newquay years ago. Not quite the graphics that the arcade had, but actually still a very playable game. So you can speed up and slow down. There you go, extra points. Oh, terrible. I'm doing this at a bit of a distance, so it's a bit trickier to see. Oh, terrible shot. Oh, bit of a skid there it looked like. Oh, how do I wait for the car and whip it across there? So Paperboy, working fine. I tried to get, I was trying to think of the games I used to play, and I tried to get Wheelie working, and I couldn't get it to work. So whether I need to try that on a different emulator, because yeah, I just couldn't get anything out of it. So what else? Oh, Jetpack was good as well, wasn't it? So one more Spectrum game. Let's try Jetpack for now. Now the Spectrum games still play well today. They really do, I think, stand up to the test of time. The graphics don't, but they're just playable, and the speed that they ran at, and they're just really nice to use. Right, so Jetpack is still quite a difficult game, especially on the later levels. It really does get difficult. Obviously, I'm making it look easy because of the experience, but yeah, it's nice to be able to play it with a joypad. It always used to be. I used to be playing it with a Spectrum keyboard, which is nowhere near as good. Oh, I had some more fuel then, didn't I? And I'm still impressed with the sound of this laptop. It is really loud. I mean, obviously I've not got it on loud at the moment because I'm chatting, but it is louder than any other laptop that I've tried, I think. It is really impressive. But what can be an issue, which I found out, is that the volume, sometimes you can't go lower than a certain level, and the lowest volume is sometimes not quite quiet enough, which can be a bit annoying. But what I've done with that is I'll either plug in headphones with a variable volume control, so I've got individual control on that because it's also too loud for headphones, or just a 3.5mm jack, like an empty jack plug, and that will work with that as well. Right, so that's Jetpack. Obviously it's going to get harder now, so I'm going to quit out of that. So that's Spectrum emulator, which I was really pleased that I got to work. I also got to work the arcade emulator MAME, and this was great. I was playing this yesterday with my son, and we were playing Ghosts and I can never remember the bit. Ghosts and Goblins, Ghosts and Ghouls, and it's a very hard game, and it really was enjoyable, just taking in turns, seeing who could get the furthest. So Ghosts and Goblins, I think it must be. And again, the speed seems perfect on this. It really does seem to work well, even to the point the emulator, you have to put a coin in, so press 5 to put a coin in. So this is just known as a very difficult game. You know, even just the first level. Oh, it's right. So this is a different version to we were playing yesterday. Oh. Yeah, I'm surprised it's different. There were skeletons yesterday, and these are kind of zombies. But I remember playing this in the arcade. Oh. Okay, so let's go back to the other one. So what was that? That was the Ghosts and Goblins. Ghouls and Ghost. So this was the one we were playing yesterday. And I'm going to do a father versus son on a few of these old school arcade games and Spectrum games and things like that, because we enjoy doing it and competing against each other because they're so quick to pick up and play, and because neither of us at the moment are playing a lot of them, we're playing different games, it means that we're on a fairly even level. So because any modern game he beats me on easy, apart from FIFA. So this was the one we were playing yesterday. Let's put some coins in. See, I'm concentrating now. Oh, something's up with the joypad turning. So left is not. You have to put down a bit to get left. Right, rather. Gold armor. I don't know what the gold armor. Oh, I thought it would be like 2 goes, but turns out it's not. I drop down. I don't think I die if I drop down. Oh. So the birds are really odd because they swoop down and then they go for your feet, and this was catching me out a lot yesterday. Anyway, so that's Ghosts and Ghouls. What else did I try? So track and field and hypersports. I think I preferred track and field. Actually, if you do T, track and field. Oh look, Hyper Olympics is next to it. So this was great in the arcades. And with the PlayStation joypad, so I think it's X and square and triangle to jump, or X and square and circle. So if let's pop a coin in. So yeah, square and X and circle. Joypad's moving. Right. So joypad was moving a bit there. I need to get a better angle on that. But as long as you qualify, it's alright. So let's just try and get, so for the next event for some sort of jumping thing. Good angle. And this as a multiplayer game, so playing this with other people is just brilliant. Now I've only got one joypad adapter because you'd want to be on the same types of joypad. So what we were doing was just taking in turns, yeah, just taking in turns and comparing scores really, just to see who did better. But that was enjoyable enough. Turn it up a bit. Oh, that's not bad. Oh, apart from the angle. That might be alright. Foul. Oh, that was close. So, through the next round. Javelin now. Oh, terrible angle. Is that going to be enough? Yeah. That's good. Happy with that. 82. Mind you, what's the first is 96, so I'm still way off that. That might be good. Oh, not bad. Yeah, I'll take that. What's this? Oh, hurdles. This was hard yesterday. And you only get one go. I think I might try and go more steady. Oh. More steady. And concentrate on getting over the hurdles rather than like mad speed. Oh, no. No. Do I get that? So look at that. 20 seconds and it's 14.5. Okay, so I'm not going to beat that one anytime soon. So I don't know if Hyper Olympics is the same as Hyper Sports. No, it's the same as track and field, just a different name. Right, so Hyper Sports. I know there's Hyper Sports and Hyper Olympics. This again was good on the Spectrum. I think I used to play this on the Spectrum. It was a good game. Important to breathe in the swimming. Oh, through to it. Oh no. Come on. If I didn't give you 3 goes on this, I think for value for money, for your 10p, this was pretty decent really. Ah. So as long as you start, so the speed isn't controlled by you, it's more just the... Oh, but then you have to jump twice. Oh, okay. That's me not knowing how to do it. I did it better yesterday. Okay. So that was... I'm a medalist. What else did we try? There were so many good arcade, but let's do more arcade ones now. Let's see. Cannon Fodder, which works within Windows, I think. I'm trying to get this working on the Amiga, but the cable I ordered for my Amiga, serial cable, still hasn't arrived. So I've emailed the supplier, and hopefully they'll come back fairly soon, and I'll get my cable, because that was part of getting this, because it's got a serial port, because it's got a floppy drive. It really came about from the Amiga, but I love it. I mean, at £33, this was such a bargain. So I can't remember how to change up teams, but I don't know if that comes later on. And the graphics, one of the issues partly with this laptop, and why you'd be better with a desktop for this type of thing, for retro gaming, is that with a desktop you could put in a Sound Blaster compatible sound card, whereas this sound card, certain things pick it up, especially through Windows, but other things don't. Doom is, the sound is terrible. And I could get the sound to work through XP, but it was incredibly slow. So you can see the speed of this runs really nicely. The graphics look, I think, pretty much like it did back in the day. You can still explode the crates, or pick up the crates. Did I lose someone there? No. For a first level, there's a lot of people, isn't there? It wasn't like this, was it? I'm sure it was, unless this again is a demo, because I was downloading lots of demos to try out. Anyway, so that's Cannon Fodder working. Original version. If I press Windows key to quit out. And I've got to remember to try and close some of these down, because some of these stay open. And I do get this weird thing of, you know, these showing up as blanks. Don't know what that is. Yeah, so the Sound Blaster was recognised on this because it's running a DOS game through Windows. It will probably be alright and the sound will be okay. He says, although it's using like PC onboard sound. I can't remember if I got the joypad working with this or not. Yeah, joypad was working fine with this as well. So all the time I'm using, well, I use mouse for Cannon Fodder, but that's how it's meant to be played. Oh, no way. I was lucky, wasn't it? I kept falling at the top here. Oh no, I've got it. Am I there? Oh yeah. What's the bag for? Oh, just points. Didn't want to go up there. Oh, I see. You get rid of the, when you go over it. Oh no. He can't take a fall, can he? Right, so that's Donkey Kong. Now, one of the games I was recommended by a colleague at work was Commander Keen. Now, I don't remember Commander Keen. My era was Windows 95 was when I first started PC games, and so the early DOS games I didn't really know a lot of apart from Doom. Okay, so let's show a DOS game as well. So this is how to boot from 98 into DOS. So restart in MS-DOS mode, hit OK. Now I'd looked up a few keyboard shortcuts because, I mean, even back in the day, I only used DOS if I really had to, and I remember having to create boot disks for certain games. Now, one of the things I couldn't remember was how to get this back to just C, because this is C drive and then the Windows folder. So if I press dir, you see that also gives me a really long directory of that folder, but there's no way of getting up to what's at the top. So if you wanted a folder which was nearer the top, the way to get to that is, what was it, CD, no, it was dir/P. So if I do dir space /P, so that does it page at a time. So you can see the folders that come up, so the ones that are directory, and then you could select a folder from there. But what I want to do, so that you can see how many folders there are in Windows, I want to go back one. I want to go back to the root of C. I don't want to be C and then a folder within C. So that command, and I can't remember using this back in the day, but cd ... goes back to C. So then if I do dir, there's not many folders in the root of this. The folder I'm looking for, because I'd been advised to try Commander Keen, and when I've looked, there's a lot of fan sites about it. I also noticed that if you have spaces in your folder names, they have this tilde, and you have to type in exactly what it is, otherwise it won't work. So I've just changed back to games DOS. So if I do, I think this is right, cd games DOS. Yeah, so now if I do dir, that's the directory of games DOS. So do I then do cd keen? Yeah, so now we're in C, we're in the folder games DOS, and we're in the folder keen. So now if I do dir, I'm looking for the executable file. And here's an example of where I need to use that command to do it one page at a time. So dir space /p, and there's a executable called keen1, and I guess that's the folder. So now we're here, we just type in keen1. So here we are. Now I can't remember this. I don't think this works with a controller now, but it's something like Control and Alt are the keys. So new game. There is sound. Now, I didn't really know what I was doing, but one of these is jump. Yeah. And if you press Control and Alt together, whoop. Then it shoots. Oh, and there's a gun. So really quite playable. It certainly moves at a nice pace, like a Mario style game. Oh. So you're obviously not meant to land on those. Any louder for you? No, it just doesn't seem to. So the volume controls in DOS on the laptop don't work. There is volume here, but it's very quiet. Oh, just exactly the same. Right. Right, let's just try and go straight over there and see if we can. I take it we can't shoot them. No, they're immune. So can I jump up like that? So is that something that's doable? Oh yeah, right, okay, just me. So I can shoot this guy, can I? Oh, although he's alright. Don't know if that's anything significant, that grey. Is there some sort of missions you have to do or anything? Could have read the instructions. Anyway, so that's Commander Keen. Oh yeah, right. So what's that? DOS, a couple of emulators. I thought I'd try and do a PC game. I've got Insane, which is, the light's not very good in here because I'm trying to make the screen look better. It says it runs on Windows 98, 95 and ME and Windows 2000. Pentium 2 233, well this is a Pentium 3 800, 64 mega RAM, this is 128 mega RAM, 16-bit DirectX compatible sound card, that's fine, DirectX 7 compatible 3D graphics, that's fine, and 8 mega RAM on the graphics card, which is what I've got. So hopefully this should work alright. Oh, so yeah, one of the stumbling blocks I came across was USB support. So on Windows 98 it had good USB support, but each device needed drivers. So when you plug a memory stick in, if it hasn't got drivers, then you can't use the memory stick. But there was like a universal, what was it called? USB mass storage drivers. Once you install those, I've been using the 32 gig USB 3 stick, and that's been working absolutely fine within Windows 98. When I installed XP, XP had no problem with all the drivers. It had no issues at all. So that was better. But obviously, it hasn't got support for 16-bit games and the DOS support. So that's the issue with it really. So let's try and See how straightforward this is to install this game. So I pop the CD in, install Insane. I can't remember if it used to run particularly well. Oh, when I bought it was 2001 from Electronics Boutique, High Street Exeter. No, High Street Barnstaple, and it was £9.99. So I'm going to try more games as time goes on. I've got Command & Conquer Red Alert. I've got Private to the Darkening, but I don't know what I'm going to do about joypad on that because it really worked well with my QuickShot joystick, but I haven't got a joystick adapter for the computer apart from this PlayStation one. But I suppose I might try it with the PlayStation controller because it is an analog controller. It's got lots of buttons on it which might come in handy. So yeah, I think maybe in the next video I might try Private to the Darkening or Command & Conquer Red Alert, or I've got one of the Star Wars games to try as well. I just have piles and piles of DVDs with stuff on them to go through, and yeah, I'll get round to it just bit by bit. But probably the next thing I'm going to do is father versus son on retro games. So my son's 14, he'll be 15 soon. I'm 46, so there's a big difference in our ages. I've obviously played a lot of these games before and been used to old games, but he's used to all the new games. But playing Ghosts and Ghouls yesterday, he was doing better than me. And although track and field I was beating him, so could be interesting. It was a little bit competitive between us, but in an enjoyable way. And yeah, can't wait to start trying that. Might start doing one tonight. Maybe if I do like two games at a time or something, or and upload them. But I think that might be quite interesting. It's just nice to see the old games. Dara O'Brien's 8-bit program has kind of shown me that it's just good to pick up and play some of these games. Codemaster client, so you can play online. I'm not going to use this laptop online just from a security point of view. I don't think it's worth it, and for the retro games in most cases I don't need to. I've got plenty of online games on my Xbox. Sounding good? That is a long intro. Right, give me some settings. I'd like to change things down a bit just in case. Well, no, I suppose we go with default settings. Oh, that didn't sound good. No. That's it. Gone. So this is similar to my Motocross Madness, where Motocross Madness, especially on XP. Actually, I could try this game on XP. On XP, it lets you play it for about a minute. Then it freezes, then it goes blue screen of death, and then generally restarts with a horrendously loud beeping noise. And this is the reason it's good to keep if you've got people around you, a 3.5mm cable or just a plug into that headphone jack just to mute it, because it's deafening when it comes back. So that's gone now. So let's try. So now as I restart, you'll see what happened after I installed XP. And as I say, XP was so easy to install. I'd partitioned the drive with Partition Magic, so I had two 9 or 10 gig drives. And when I put XP in and booted it from the XP CD, which it booted directly, I didn't need any floppy or anything, it straight away just came up with the option of install. And then when you went to install, it showed both drives, you picked the drive, and it automatically created this. So it automatically boots to XP Pro, and if you want Windows 98, you just drop down to there. So for this, because that game's just failed, I'm going to try it once on XP to see if it works on that, although what does it say? Yeah, it only mentions up to Windows 2000, Windows ME and 2000, doesn't mention XP, but then other games work, so let's try that. And it's not a DOS game, so it's not like an issue of the game being too old. Right, computer restarted, don't send. So this, obviously I was playing Motocross Madness last because that crashes as well. It's all part of the fun. So, no, I don't want to vote, yeah. So let's install Insane, do exactly the same thing again. I'll whip through this. Okay, so Insane's not launching. Something that's interesting about this setup is, so XP comes up as an E drive, and the C drive is still there. so it's not a hidden partition. So when it's running XP, you can move between both operating systems files. So this is my Windows 98 installation and all the files and everything on there. And here's my E drive, which is my XP one. Now, actually, while I'm here, let's show you Doom 2, which works on XP, but it's incredibly laggy. Now, the only reason I tried it on XP is because on 98 I couldn't get the right sound. I had an issue with the Sound Blaster problem again. So let's start that up and you'll be able to hear, although the volume doesn't turn up. You can't hear it then. Right, it is coming up with the right sounds, but it is actually very laggy, which is weird because, you know, really low specs that this ran on at the time. So Doom 2 is not good on this computer. So if I quit out of that, but it does work much better on 98. So let's quit out of XP because I wasn't really going to mainly use that. I've still got a few options with Insane. I could try and install the full version and play around with it, but let's restart, or let's turn it off and then restart with 98. Because if I show you something that fails, I then want to show you something that definitely works. And the PlayStation emulator is just so good. Right. So ironically, the problems I'm having are more with PC games than with emulated games. Right, so let's boot that up. So it'll come up with the boot screen. Got the original Maximum Remix Dave Mirror. It's a bit dusty. This is such a good game. I've got this on an Android box. Downloaded the ISO for the file, and it's too fast, and it's enjoyable still. And I've got a Dreamcast version of it. I bought the Dreamcast original disc from CEX a while back, and it also runs too fast. And when you try and slow it down, it doesn't seem to emulate it perfectly. But this emulator seems to emulate PlayStation 1 games. I haven't had any issues at all, and it really emulates them well. Look, they look good, the speed is good, the control is perfect. So that's what I'll show you. Where have I got it? Working emulators. I'm still not 100% with the Mega Drive and the SNES emulators. I want to get them working better before I show them in a video. So Virtual Game Station. Now I had this years ago, and this is, I haven't re-downloaded any of this. This was files that I had from a long time ago. So volume control works fine on this. You can see the video looks nice and smooth. And all the buttons have been mapped just like the PlayStation controller. Legendary Dave Mirror. Right. Nice outfit. Oh, and he uses the digital pad for this bit. And it just, I think it's the right speed. I'm surprised they landed that. Such a playable game. Let's go outside. Still one of my favourite games of all time. Ooh. Probably looks a bit dark on that. Yeah, it does. Oh, it looks dark. You're watching really dark. I suppose I can brighten that up in the YouTube bit. Oh, look. Sorry about that. So all this time you could have had it much brighter. You've got time. So I'll do that again because the first one was terribly dark. Just had the screen at a funny angle. Oh, it gave me that. Crikey. How much speed for these? Oh, no. Not a lot of speed for a backflip. Oh, thought I was going to make that. Oh, gotta slow down. Oh. No, not speed. Oh, a bit more speed needed for the front flip. Okay, so that's Virtual Game Station, PlayStation emulator working on the Compaq. Now the last thing to show would be Doom 2 in DOS. So also when you're booting up, if you hit Control on boot, that gives you DOS. So if you're just starting out fresh. So in this case, because it's a dual boot system, I've got to select Windows 98. So as soon as I pick Windows 98, I need to hit Control. Ah, there you go. And now we can do command prompt, so we can boot into DOS. And that's it. CD Doom 2 and see, my mouse is working now. Okay, so this is Windows 98 in Windows mode running Doom 2. The only issue is the sound. The sound is, as you can hear, not the full-on sound with the breathing and the roars and stuff like that. But it works perfectly fine. Very laggy on XP for some reason. Obviously it's not made for that system. Whoa. Let's get this fella in here. Right, I can't remember what I've got to do now. Oh, that'll probably be it. Okay, so I guess that's it. That's the end of this second video on the Compaq e500. I hope some of the information was interesting, and I'll try out some more games, some more emulators and things as time goes on. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe.